It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. We are going to be talking a little March Dadness. Be talking about really parenting in general and a couple of verses or things that keep us encouraged as parents, as dads. And we'll get right to that conversation right after these important messages.
This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis is brought to you by the Always Endure Slawburger Chase 5K and 10K on Saturday, April 15, starting at the Bank of Lincoln County in Fayetteville, Tennessee at 8 a.m. By registering, you are supporting the mission of Always Endure to remove financial barriers for adoptive families, barriers to care for patients enduring major medical diagnosis, and barriers to placement for children in foster care. You can register at alwaysendure.com by clicking on the Events tab at the top of the page.
I'm Travis Creasy. That's All-Pro Counselor Ben Hayes.
How's it going?
And with us is Will Myhand. How you doing, Will?
Man, I'm doing good. How about you?
Man, I'm rocking and rolling. It's spring. We had storms move through last night, and it's beautiful outside here in Fayetteville, Tennessee. A lot of people picking up pieces of trees and stuff out of the yard. I know that it was even more damage over your way. And so we obviously hope that everyone, by the time this comes out, has got all that picked up and that everybody's doing okay.
Yeah, there was several storms. I just found out a few minutes ago. Florence had, I think, a tornado rolled through a couple of spots and there were some houses damaged, but nothing like in Mississippi. So I'm sure even when this airs that they could use our prayers and our help down in kind of middle Mississippi. There was some pretty bad stuff that went through there.
Well, it's interesting because I was staying up late. I have a hard time going to sleep if it's storming, and not that my phone didn't go nuts when something actually got close, which is great. But it was tracking south of us, and then all of a sudden it jumped, which movements don't move like that. And so it's like, obviously there's a funnel or something. About the time I got upstairs and alerted my mom and my daughter, who sleep in the bunk beds when she's here, my mom's here, and I got my hand right on Whitney's leg and it went nuts. And I was like, we got to get downstairs. So we got downstairs. Everything's fine. We got a few limbs down. But other than that, like you said, nothing like a lot of folks in Mississippi. And I know there's been a lot of damage down there in Alabama. So our thoughts and prayers, and there'll be opportunity there to serve people there, and I know we've got a lot of people that will be doing just that. So we did want to jump on and talk a little bit about, and while we were kicking around what we were going to do, I saw a hashtag March Dadness, and I thought, as parents, you can't ever get enough encouragement. So we're going to talk about 3 to 5 things. It can be scripture. I think we're going to focus a good bit on scripture, but little things that kind of keep us encouraged. Maybe, just maybe, they'll help you as well. And of course, we're always looking for comments. We would love for you to join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Ben and Travis. And if you're on there or on Facebook and follow us, or you see this on YouTube, wherever it is, be sure to let us know in the comments some things that keep you encouraged in your walk with the Lord, and specifically for this episode in the parenting life. So Ben, you're the man at the top of the page. Why don't you give us a little encouragement today?
When we start talking about dadness and parenting in general, this could also go for moms, but we're all dads, so we'll go from that direction. But I think the key is what we've talked about a lot with counseling as well, and with ministry. I think it all applies in the same way. The most important part of it's the relationship, and spending time, having time with your kids. And the more kids you have, the more difficult that is to get the one-on-one personal time with them. I do what I can to try to do that. Sometimes I fail miserably in it. Sometimes it's hard to try to do group events because one person likes something more than the other. But I really do think it revolves around relationships. And so I would say the number one aspect to parenting, to ministry, to grandparenting, to just about anything we do ends up falling into relationships. And I've heard Lonnie Jones speak about this passage a lot, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, and he uses it for ministry. And he says, hey, this is a perfect picture of ministry. In verse 7, it says, we prove to be gentle among you as a nursing mother tenderly cares for her child, her children, having so fond an affection for you. We're well pleased to impart not only the gospel of God, but our own lives to you. And so there's a picture of momness there. But then when you get down a little bit lower in the verse, he says that you are witnesses, verse 10, this 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 10, you're witnesses, and so is God, how devoutly, uprightly, and blamelessly we behaved ourselves towards you as believers, just as you know how we were exhorting and encouraging and imploring each one of you as a father would his own children, so that you would walk in a manner worthy of God who calls you into his own kingdom and glory. And just that idea of the relationship of we encouraged you, we were exhorting you, we're trying to teach you, we're trying to instruct you, we were encouraging you, and we were even begging you, to do the right thing, to make the best choices that you can, so that you would walk in a manner worthy of God. And he compares that to how a father does his children. So I think that, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to guide them. We're trying to direct them in the right way. Sometimes that takes a little bit of discipline. Sometimes that takes a little bit of encouragement. And sometimes that takes a little bit of begging, let's just, we want you to do the right things. And so, but it's hard to do that if you don't have a relationship.
And I think the verse that came to my mind when we kicked this around was the two instances. You have the baptism of Jesus, where there's this affirmation, this is my beloved son, and then even the Transfiguration, Mark 9, which was our CYC theme this year. Are you listening? And I love the clarification there, because you got Moses, Jesus, and Elijah, and Peter doesn't know what to do with his hands, I guess. And so he's like, let's build a temple. Let's build something for all three of them. And, God, that voice, this is my son.
Yeah.
And in one instance, in whom I'm well pleased. And the other, listen to him. This is the clear hierarchy. And so even Jesus, who is God in the flesh, gets that affirmation. And so something I've been doing here lately is to try to give that affirmation. We even do it in our discipline. If we call them son or, whatever nickname we have for them as our kids, it kind of helps them to realize that this is coming from what you said, a relational standpoint. You're my son. This is why I'm doing these things. I'm responsible for you and your behavior, but also, most importantly, your relationship with Jesus. And so, Whitney does a much better job, and I'm sure you guys can attest to your wives on things like this. She just does a tremendous job. I'm the minister, technically, but man, she just streamlines so much of what we do here as a spiritual. The spiritual is so important, and she shows that. And so that challenges me. But I want to give that affirmation at some point every day, son.
So how many times is that, son? What were you thinking?
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then it always echoes back. Like he's thinking exactly what you were thinking at that age. He's not. He's not thinking, and Ben, you shared that information, I'm sure, on several episodes about, and even I think maybe a blog, when they say, large degree, when they say, I don't know, then they're telling the truth. They just don't
that
know.
brain chemistry, they really don't know.
Yeah. They're just being honest with you.
It's interesting to me because, of course, I became a dad, roughly 4.5 years ago, with Emmy being born. And it's the more I get into parenthood, the more just shout out to all of you that are parents or that are grandparents, aunts, uncles, shout out to anybody that's helping influence young people. Because it's just a tough job, and I think there's times even now that I'm still going, I don't have a clue how to do this. and I'm assuming that that's the way it's always going to be. I know, Travis, you've mentioned before, a lot of times teenagers get mad with their parents And their parents are also trying to figure out how to parent too.
Yeah.
And it's just everybody's trying to move in a good direction together. But I think a lot of times we parent based on the way our parents parented us. We try and take the good and keep doing that. And some of the things that maybe didn't work, we try and change that. And I don't have a lot to change because I was blessed with two incredible parents.
Nice save there. Good job.
Really and truly, Lindsay tells me all the time, she was like, you just don't understand, the family you grew up in. I was like, I get it. But it's interesting. My parents were always available. Whether it was, I remember growing up at Marcel playing baseball, and up above the baseball field are these apartments off of Marshall Road. And I remember my dad's city truck there almost every single afternoon. And it was practice. Now, maybe dad had finished all of his work, or he was just swinging by to check in. How are things going? I don't think Andrew and I ever had a game that our parents weren't at, and so just the availability to support us in what we thought was important. I know there were probably a lot of summer days they did not want to go watch Little League baseball. Like, I get it, or junior pro or whatever it is, but they were there. And I remember those things so vividly that it wasn't always, mom and dad would go, you didn't do this right, or you didn't do that. Or I remember mom screaming at Marshall basketball games, don't shoot, while I'm out on the court. But the thing that's always in my mind is I knew where they were sitting. And so that's why Lindsay and I go together every Thursday to Emmy's dance class. It's a 30-minute dance class. And I know that we are just, it's 2-on-1 right now, and we have the ability to be there. And that's what I want to do. That's something that I've taken from my parents and saw how much it meant to me. And so I would challenge all of us as parents, you say all the time, be where your feet are. And our kids, be where our kids' feet are, be where they're at, so that we have the opportunity to support them. There was, in a Bible that I have that my dad gave me when I graduated high school and went to Freed, he wrote two really important things. The first one was roll tide. So he was going to make sure that I stayed the course. But the second one was Proverbs 22:1. And it says, a good name is to be chosen over great wealth. Favor is better than silver and gold. And mom and dad always push to us, just do the right thing. You don't have to have all this money. You don't have to have all this fame or this wealth. Understand that when God looks at your life, your reputation, your integrity, the character that you have, that's what's going to carry you a lot of places in life. And so that's a verse that's always been on my mind because it came specifically, from my dad to say, hey, here's the type of man I want you to become. And so it's been a special encouragement, a verse and something that I try and pass on.
Well, my mind keeps going back to the fact that your mom was saying, don't shoot. So
Yeah.
she didn't have trust in your ability
not at all.
to make the shot or what.
No, she was they would sit on the front row at Marcel. And if I caught the ball, all I could do was shoot threes because I wasn't very athletic. And I wasn't going to drive into the lane by any stretch of the imagination. So like right in my left ear, I'd pull up to shoot. Don't shoot. All right, good shot. If I made it. And then if I missed it, it was, I told you so.
Told you not to shoot.
Maybe
That's fantastic.
constructive criticism.
But you knew she was there.
She was
knew where they were going to be.
She was there.
Well, we went with affirmation from me, availability from Will. And I'm going to go with another A here. And all these sound fairly attainable, right? These are all like, you can be having the worst parental day you've ever had. And boy, howdy, have I got a top 10 list of those. We could be here all day. But that's the best thing about it is, like, even if you're having a bad parental day, you can affirm that regardless of how bad it's going, you're my son, you're my daughter, and I'm available to you. And Ben, I know that you've spoken about practical ways to do that, especially at our workshop, of being attuned, even in our posture and how we sit when our kids are trying to talk to us, even in the midst of the most busy time, which seems to be every time.
Yeah, I mean that idea of attunement, just listening, just stopping, and sometimes even in the middle of the argument, if there's an argument taking place or there's been a frustrating day, we end up comparing ourselves so many times to other people's best day. We look at what they show us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and we go, oh wow, they've got it all together. Their family's perfect. I mean, we posted pictures last night of junior senior banquet, and I mean, there were some great photos of our family, and everybody's like, oh, happy family. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, for the most part, but most of the time when we got to take pictures, they're not happy. They did pretty good last night. I will give it to them. That was probably the easiest picture shoot we've ever had. But there came a point where with Jackson, it was just, okay, I goofed off with him with the camera for a while, and that loosened him up some, and we didn't get on him when he kind of goofed off, and that helped out some. And so there's a point sometimes where you've got to say, okay, I can make this a bad day, or I can let this day continue to be bad, or I can change my attitude. And that's a hard thing for me to do sometimes. Once something bad's happened, kind of getting back on the right track. But I think that's a big part of it. But just simply being attuned to them, stopping, listening to what they're saying in the argument rather than just trying to bulldoze your way through it. There's a time to just go, okay, let me hear you out. And then along with that attunement thing is just turning to them rather than away from them or against them. We use that a lot in the counseling, with the idea of if somebody's speaking to me and I answer back, I just kind of give them a little bit of attention, belonging, and support. But it doesn't have to be a big comment. Just, hey, yeah, I saw that. That's turning to. If I, just ignore them, it's turning away from. If I go, will you shut up? I'm trying to do something. It's kind of turning against. And I think even when the kids are just trying to share with you something, just the ability to go, oh yeah, that's really cool. I see that. That right there, it can be a very simple statement, is the turning to. But if we just keep ignoring or we get angry at, we've kind of put up a wall and we keep building that wall up, and then we go, why don't our kids not talk to us? Well, because we've not been the greatest communicators with them. And I've failed at that some with my kids. There's been times when, I'm not easy to talk to with them, and I think I am, but I'm not. So I think that's a big part of it, is just that attunement. Another A word. So there you go.
There we go. We're on a roll. It's almost like you got a bunch of ministers in a room together, but we're giving out sermon topics here too. I mean, just give you an outline, all kinds of benefit here. So Ben, and we may have two of these, the Friday refresh question of the day. And the Friday refresh is a great podcast that Ben puts out every other Friday to get you through the weekend. And maybe if you're like me as a parent, there are weekends where it's like, I don't want a weekend. Like I would just rather to keep school going if we're repenting of things. But Ben, you've got 5. Ryan, I am up to date on the number right
You're
there.
right.
5.
Let's count the dogs. There's 7.
Got you. I got 2. Will's got 1. When does the plan go out the window? Right? Like you get the first one comes along, you're pretty planned out. Like we're structured. We've got kind of, this is the cookie cutter approach. We've got it down pat, and then like the second one comes, or the third one comes, or the fourth one, and like they just blow it up. I hear all the time, we had one and they were like the perfect child, and we thought, man, this parenting thing's easy, let's go ahead and have a second one. And then it's like the second one blows all that up. Like you thought you were good at parenting, it's just you had an easy one first. When does that plan blow up?
I don't know. We kept when we were at Petersville, there was a guy who told us, we were thinking about having kids and then about having another kid and that sort of thing. He's like, look, you're never going to have enough to handle it, as far as like money or whatever. If you're trying to be prepared, he said, you just figure it out. You figure it out along the way. I blame him. Okay. I blame him. Patrick, this is on you. And Patrick,
you sit on a throne of lies, Patrick.
Patrick Mitchell sits on a throne of lies. But he was like, you'll figure it out. Well, so we didn't stop till we got to 5, and it's not easy most days. But I think as far as the plan is concerned, you got 2-on-1 when there's one. Will, you know that? Then you got man to man for you guys, Travis. We're just in zone, and at this point, somebody said, you go from man to man to zone to trying to coach it, like at about 3 you're just going like, okay, here's what you guys have to do, and you're trying to coach it. And then they said when you get to 5 you're just sitting in the stands watching
don't shoot, right? don't shoot.
Yeah, so it gets at 5 it's just like I might as well just sit back and watch it. Watch the world burn.
Ben has moved to the point where he's now recruiting his older ones to join his team.
I got 2 that drive, so now it's just like you're picking up kids today, you're taking the kids to this. And right now we just got our schedule. We have 3 playing ball, playing softball and baseball. Thankfully they're all at the same complex. But like one of them, 2 of them's games are back to back. Some of them are playing at the same time, but at the same complex on like Mondays and Thursdays, and the other ones are playing on Tuesdays and Fridays. And so, my world, I don't have a lot.
So for the next 3 weeks, it's going to be the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Blake, Travis, and Will.
Yeah,
probably so.
Yeah. There you go. Well, Will, you and I, and Ben to a large degree still with CYC and everything, we're still in the business of trying to help other people's kids. Mm-hmm. So, as much as you may be 2-on-1 at home, you are 2 on how many ever y'all got in the youth group there at Highland Park, which might include me, depending on what weekend it is. I may show up, but we appreciate all of the parents out there. Ben or Will, you were dead on about, as ministers, as coaches, as we have all probably been at some point, life coaches, athletic coaches. We just want to be a tool. We want this podcast to be a tool. We want the Friday refresh, our goofy videos, benandtravis.com, to be a tool to assist you in whatever facet life you are listening to this podcast. But we certainly want to encourage you as a parent that even if it's the red letter day where everything's going great and you sound like super dad or super mom, or you're on your own or feel like you're on your own, we just want you to leave this podcast knowing you're not. You've got a large group of people rooting for you. We obviously believe that God is on your side, and he is the capital F Father who is in the mess with you, and he's on the mountaintops, he's in the valley. And so we hope to encourage you with that. If you're at the bottom and you're in the valley and you're having a rough day, realize that he really loves and desires to be in the dirt, hands in the dirt with you in this journey. And so we hope that you understand that you're encouraged by that. And as we sign off, Ben or Will, if you got a good dad joke, you can hit us with that now.
As we get ready to close out, we're always about physical health too. I'm not very good at it, but just starting off and getting in shape. Okay, trying to do those things. So you might consider just starting off with lunges. It would be a big step forward.
And that'll do it for today.
That was terrible.
That'll wrap us right up, baby.
Maybe you need to do that with parenting too. One big step forward. Do what you can.
Have you all heard about the construction joke?
No.
Still working on it.
Not sure that one was any better.
Guys, I appreciate your time. And we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.